Yeah, we're live. It is 5:30, so we're here a little bit early. Let's see if we can do this here. We got some things we're going on. Okay, so I want to start out with I've got some other things that we want to talk about, but I want to start out with these keychains. Oddly enough, the reason we have these available now at richrollderperformance.com. They're turbo keychains, so you can see this photo, and then we're gonna let's see this one. You can see we got our logo on there. And the reason I bring these up is because we are offering these and for a good cause. So we're not just selling keychains. What we're doing is Jimmy and I talked about it, and we've got a batch of these. And what we're going to do is we're kind of doing a Go Fund Me thing. So what we want to do is we want to buy a Junkyard LS. We want to buy a Junkyard 4.8. And so we're going to sell these keychains, these RHP keychains, and the funds are going to be used to buy this 4.8 liter LS. And what I plan to do with the 4.8 is I want to run this thing with a stock bottom end. So we're not going to touch the, block, crank rods, and pistons. What we want to do is I want to try to get 500 horsepower out of this thing with a stock bottom end 4.8. Now we've done more than that on the 5.3 already, but we want to do it on a 4.8. So we just thought that this would be fun. If you guys want to help support the effort with the 4.8, we'll run it on the dyno, and we'll use the proceeds from the. You can see here. We'll add this. You can see the proceeds from these keychains. Be cool to have, I actually have one. Mine's a little bit different color. Unfortunately, they're only available in gold. We ordered a bunch of different colors, an assortment of colors, and when they sent them, they only sent gold. So you get solid gold keychains, which are not really solid gold. They're just solid gold color. But like I said, all the proceeds are going to be used when we sell these. We're going to just go to the wrecking yard and buy $200, $300, $500, whatever the LS is going to cost. We just need to get a 4.8. We honestly, I'll probably just buy a long block and not one with an intake manifold and stuff on it. It's going to come with a truck intake manifold, and we don't really care about that. I've got plenty of those. I've got plenty of that, so we'll spend as little money as we can. So we don't need to make very much money. I mean, these are like $5 a piece, I think. Jimmy has them up on the site right now. And so what we'll do is I'll just get a long block 4.8, and we'll just get, if I can find a Gen 4 one, that would be kind of cool. If not, it'll be a Gen 3. We just need to make sure that it's a runner, and then hopefully it will have, just all the holes. The thing that I'm most concerned about is we want to make sure that it's, that it's fairly well sealed up. I've gotten a 4.8 in the past, and I've been bitten by it. It was not in good shape. And it's really, that's on me for not testing it the way that I should have. We should have spun it over. We should have maybe, cranked it, checked compression, or done something to make sure that we got at least a reasonable one. But this one was horrible. I didn't even take the valve covers off it. Had I taken the valve covers off of it, we would have saw broken rockers and stuff, and I never would have got that. So I didn't look as closely as I should have. So at any rate, we want to get a 4.8. Then what we'll do is we'll run it, make sure that's okay, and then I will try the right combination of ported heads, cam, intake manifold. We'll obviously run long tube headers on it. We'll run a Mizzier electric pump, and we'll try to get this 4.8. We're going to spin it up fairly high, 7,500 or so, I'm sure, maybe more than that, to get to 500 flywheel horsepower with the 4.8. I've never done it before, and I think it's certainly possible, but it just is a fun exercise. Then after that, what we'll do, the same thing that we do with all these junkyard motors, we'll put ring gap in it, and then I want to run 2 of the mirror image G3770 turbos on it. Now, we're not trying to do a big bang or anything on it, but we do want to, I'm sure that we could push it into 4-digit power levels, because those turbos will easily support that much power. And it would be cool. I'll get to use the TIC performance air-to-water intercooler on a high rammy kind of thing, and so it will be a good deal. So everybody loves 4.8s, and they want to see them tested. And so if you guys can help it out, you guys can, get some of these keychains. Like I said here, I'll show you. I got some keychains. So if you want to go to the store, go to richrollderperformance.com, order up a keychain, help support this. I'm going to do some posting on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. I mean, we're talking about a few $100s or whatever. Not that we wouldn't do it anyway, but we just thought this would be a fun thing, and you guys can all you know, you guys can all claim to have a little piece of the 4.8. And then maybe, I don't know, we'll have to talk. I'll have to talk with Jimmy. Maybe at the end, and maybe we'll do votes on this. Maybe we could give away the 4.8 when we're done. Who knows? It would be kind of a cool deal. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is this: if there's anybody out there that has a 4L80 behind their LS, you know, if you've got a turbo LS and you've got a 4L80, one of our guys is selling a converter. This is a Circle D converter. It is a GM 245 Pro Series for a 4L80. You guys can look up the specs on it. It's a 3400 stall, so it's something that a guy could use on a fairly, you know, high RPM or high horsepower, you know, big cam LS, whether it's a 4.8, 5.3, or 6.0, you know, pretty good size cam in it, your short runner kind of intake manifold, or something that has a, you know, a bigger cam in it than we would normally recommend for a turbo application. I think that these converters are, I think that they're $1,000 or $1,100 or something. And so this one had, he put it in there, he had 50 miles on it. He actually wants a higher stall converter because he's doing a more racy thing on it. It wasn't enough stall for him. It was 3,400. And so he's doing something else. But it came right back out, had about 50 miles on. He's like, yep, this is not the right stall for me. I'm going to go to something else. So he wants to sell it. I think he'll let it go for around 700. So if there's somebody out there that wants a converter like this, you're going to save, you know, $400 or something off of a converter. Let me know. And then, in fact, I'll post my you can send me an email here, or I can get you in touch with Jimmy. You can send a note directly to Jimmy at the store at richardoldnerperformance.com if you're interested in that converter. It's a really nice piece. For most of the things, when we're having discussions, it's a little more converter than I normally recommend for a guy that has a truck. But on something that's, you know, a little more serious, a little more cammy, you know, a little more RPM, this thing is going to be, you know, a fairly serious deal. So it should be fun. So we'll get to our turbo keychains up there in the converter. So we got good stuff. I posted on Instagram and Facebook. I posted some short clips. So if you follow Richard Holdner, go there and you can take a look at some of the stuff. I also posted some shorts up on my YouTube channel. So we have some cool burnout videos with Lucky, and he has a remote mounted in Butternuts in I think that's a Chevelle wagon. He has one of our G42s remote mounted at the back of that wagon. And he's got some cool burnout videos. Big smile on his face. He likes to do the smoky burnout. So it's pretty cool. So that's up there if you want to take a look at it. I've got some stuff that I posted recently on the 671 on an LS, because obviously it's possible to do a 671. We've got videos up and you guys can take a look at that. What I'm doing is going through and we're doing a bunch of shorts on stuff and then directing people to the videos that's associated with. Now, this thing with Lucky was just something that he sent me. He goes, here, because I've been asking him, hey, look, what, you know, how much boost is it making? How responsive is it? Because we were a little concerned with his application. He has a 5.3. For one, it's a remote mounted turbo. He wasn't really looking to make, you know, I don't think 1,000 plus horsepower. So the turbo, in my opinion, he could have gone to something smaller than that. It's got a single plane intake manifold on it. It's got a camshaft I don't have the specs on it, but I think it's too big. So all of these things kind of led me down the path that I was a little bit worried. It did have a converter in it, though. I think it's got a 3,000 or a 3,200 stall. So that was good. But I was just concerned about the response rate on that. More so, not because it was a 5.3, but more so because it was a good size cam, a single plane intake, and a remote mount. All of those things kind of tend to, you know, sacrifice the response rate of the turbo. But then he sent me these videos of him doing the smoky burnouts and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's probably okay. And like I said, it's always a balance on these things, finding out what people want. Do you want just annihilate the tires as you're rolling in? Do you like that? Well, yeah, everybody likes that. But do you are you willing to trade the power out at the top? No, I gotta have 1,000 horsepower, and it's got to be immediate response, and it's got to get 50 miles per gallon. It's got to do, like, it's not gonna do any of that. Okay, well, it's gonna do one of those things or maybe two of those things, but it's not gonna do all of those things. So we always gotta, just like with camshafts, we always have to decide what we want. And then we can also help tailor that with other things that we would use in the combination, like maybe a long runner intake manifold, maybe not remote bounding it. So if you wanted to get more response in his, the packaging is awesome. He did a great job fabricating it. All that's fantastic. And so if you don't want something under the hood, that's a good packaging area, and that all works. And like I said, he did a fantastic job. He's going to have nothing but fun with that. And I told him, look, if you want something that's more responsive, we'll get you, hooked up with something that's more responsive. So we can get all that taken care of. I'm excited about this deal with the 4.8, because I wanted to do that for a while now, and we just thought we'd add some kind of fun thing to get people involved. If you guys are interested in a converter that has a 3400 stall and it's a Circle D piece, you can see the part numbers on there. It is a GM 245 millimeter. Let's see if I have GM 245 millimeter Pro Series 4L80 torque converter. Let's see. The part number is the SKU number, SKU 05-11-04. Let's see if this thing has a Pro Series billet torque converter. So torque converter that has billety goodness. We like that. 245 millimeters, furnace braze, hand TIG welded, torque and bearing, billet front and billet piston, flange and impeller hub for anti-flex durability, hand assembled for exact tolerances. So, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty legit. Let's see what you guys got going on. 916 in the pole position. 500 horsepower, maybe cam and heads. For 500 horsepower on a 4.8, it will take everything and then some. Cam and heads isn't going to do it with a stock intake manifold, so we're going to need some kind of intake manifold. Dime Stack, thank you very much. David Cunningham, does it have a little motor in it? Been looking at getting something for my 124 crawler. No, it doesn't have a spinny goodness, really. I mean, it spins, but doesn't actually work. Single or triple disc. I don't know if Jimmy told me. I'll ask Jimmy and see if he knows. Converter, I think he's asking 7 for LSA supercharged 6-liter. If it's a triple, maybe interested. Okay. Jimmy's going to answer me, and we're answering. It's a single disc, not a triple. You need to give the full turbo NA build parts list out with each keychain. Yeah, we will, but we will do that after we give out the keychains. I can tell you here, David, what we're going to do. The things I'm going to try is I'm going to do the TFS ASCAS 220 heads that I had that we made 540 on the 5.3. We're going to run those heads again, because that's way more head than is needed for that power level, because the heads will support way over 600 horsepower. Because they've been ported by the guys at Brian Truly Racing and Total Engine Airflow, and so they will. I think that they flow 320 or 330. So there's more than enough cylinder head there. They've also been milled, which is good. We will pick from a couple of different camshafts, but ultimately we might try the same BTR stage 4 LS3 cam, which is mid 230s, like 250 duration split, and that's enough camshaft. In fact, it might be too much for that combination, but we'll see. We have a fast intake manifold. We have, which might get us there. We have some short runner stuff, high rams and BTR Trinities, which might get us there. A BTR Trinity with that camshaft and those heads on a 4.8 is going to be an 8,000 plus RPM motor. And I don't know how happy the stock bottom end is going to be if we have to go out that far. Are upgraded push rods necessary on a stock bottom end 5.3 with the cam springs and turbo setup? No, not always. We have guys running stock stuff. It depends on what springs you're using and how much RPM you're running. We should go live together sometime to talk about the 8.1 burnout truck I'm building. Okay. Did you have a question about it, or are you? I'm not familiar with Two Wrenches Auto. You guys are probably famous, and I don't know about you, and I'm speaking out of turn. Adding ring gap has uncovered so many problems on my build. Currently cleaning all the gunk out of every piston. All 3 rings can't spin. I got new crank, lifter, bearings. You got a new crank? That seems like a lot, but it's not unusual at all, and that's something we will do with a 4.8, I'm sure. I might even do a ball hone on it. I just don't know. Maybe put rings in it just to get the thing. Well, we'll not do that to begin with. that would be a last ditch effort, or not a last ditch effort. That would be last on the list of the things that we would try. But a lot of the junkyard LSs that I've taken apart, at the very least, the oil control rings don't spin. If it's high mileage, those things are stuck in place. And so freeing those up, it's like rebuilding the motor. Sometimes the top 2 rings, sometimes those don't spin, and that can be bad on wearing the bores if the rings are stuck. Too much stall for me. Good deal for someone. Yep. Got my 50-pound injectors installed. Flex fuel enabled in the tune. Down tested 93 versus pump. Not expecting much gain. Hopefully under the curve. It'll be interesting to see if you get anything down low. The thing that I will tell you is you probably will get gains on a street application running full temperature in a vehicle, because you cannot, most applications on pump gas on 91 or 93 cannot run full timing in the vehicle, particularly a heavy vehicle, at running with the temperature at 190 or 200 degrees. You can't get full timing that you need to make maximum power on most of those applications, whereas with the E85, you definitely can. So your thing might be able to pick up, if you tune it properly, you might be able to pick up power by doing that. We are planning to do all the things like cam springs, intake, porting in-house. Like Terminator, need some advice from a guy who knows a bit about the 8.1s. What kind of power are you trying to make? Because if it's a turbo version of that 8.1, it's really easy to make tire spinning kind of torque. My L94 is not blown up. That's good. I guess I never did an oil change until I eventually grinded up the lifters. So the converter 700 or firm at 700. I don't know. That's something Terry, that you'd have to deal with them on. I think 700 is a pretty good deal for $1,000 or $1,100 converter. Really going to pull your own 4.8? Do you just need an almost free one? No, we'll go get one from a wrecking yard, rather than something that we would have to ship somewhere. Because it's got to come to me. It's got to be here in California. Just tuning in, and plus I get to go to the wrecking yard, which is like my favorite thing. Just tuning in, definitely interested in one of the keychains. Yep, you go to richardoldnerperformance.com. There, Jimmy has them up on the site, and we have an explanation about what we're trying to do with it. All of that stuff is there. You can order them up. They're like $5. Chevy boy, do you have something else in mind to upgrade? Planning on BTR head gaskets and ARP bolts. Otherwise, stock engine and a bunch of boost. Rich, for a 408 stroke I was talking to you about last night, I forgot to ask what ring gap we want to use, and then should I run a marine high temp exhaust valve? I only if you plan on running it at under boost for extended periods of time. The ring gap is 6 thousandths per inch of bore. So if you have a 4-inch bore or a 4030, it's 4 times 6. Yeah, it is a single disc. I'm very interested. I have a 4.8 in my RCSB, barely 100,000, runs amazing, 40 psi oil pressure. Just want to leave it in and boost it. I have a Garrett GTX 42, and that will be good. When doing an aftermarket stall converter, does that affect towing, trans temp, and longevity in general? I don't have an answer to that. I would think that it does. I can tell you that I don't know about the towing part of it. I don't know if the load would change that. I know in Jimmy's converter that he's got a pretty high stall converter for his Mustang, but it drives around because it's a lockup converter. So it drives around just like almost like a stock converter. Like it's not stalling up high. And maybe you'd have the same thing happen when you're towing at light throttles and stuff. So what's better, loose or high torque or a tight torque converter? It depends on what you're doing. I mean, most of the factory stuff is tight because they're concerned with fuel mileage, and they have small cams and long runner intake manifolds. And so they don't need a lot of converter slippage. It's a combo build thing. Sometimes you may even pull it apart to adjust the stall until it works for you. And also with the converter, being able to tune the transmission is going to be beneficial. When's the RHP 100 horsepower camshaft coming? I don't know. I have to do some testing with it first. Any idea why a BTR Stage 2 V3 truck cam is not being talked about? Given it's a clean slate, new design, I would think there would be more videos on them. Are they not interesting or worth using? I don't know why you're jumping to that conclusion. That cam, I think, according to Brian, is kind of right there with a Truck Norris cam. So that should be a good cam. Can't find any videos on them. We are far from famous. We do have questions about a Gen 6 cam. Concerns about RPM on the bottom end. Limiter limits to avoid blowing it up. I don't know what the thing that I would be concerned with is the oiling system. Big blocks, and I don't know how the Gen 7 responds to this or how it fits in here because we haven't run a lot of them. We've run a few on the dyno. I mean, I've run mine a few times. I mean, but we know big blocks in the past, the Mark IV all the way up to the Gen 6 stuff, tend to have like windage issues and oil control issues. And so having a good oiling system on there is kind of critical. For sustained running, if you're doing smoky burnouts and you're trying to melt tires down and do it for a long period of time, the oiling system, I think, would be the thing that I would be concerned about. It's easy to make the power. Danny, what's going on? Great idea of the keychains. I'll most likely get me one. And we also, today, we got a great design, thanks mostly to my wife, a great design for shirts. So if you, I don't know if you've seen this one. Look at this. This is a shirt that my wife got me. This is not the one that we're offering. This is made by somebody else, but you can see still plays with blocks, and it's an engine block, so it's kind of clever. But we have a new design that we're working on, so I just need to get the source for the shirts, and we'll get new merch in, and so you guys will be happy. We're going to do hoodies. We might do hats, although the design's not going to go on a hat. That would just be a logo thing. That's not as important for me, but shirts and hoodies will be the first thing that we do. What's your opinion of Phytech? I haven't tested their stuff, so I don't know. Thanks, Richard. I'll be sure to report my dyno findings, and I will report what the direct ship dyno says there. I'm good. I'm interested to hear that. I get 4.8s all the time is why I ask. I don't like selling them. I'd rather give them away. Where are you at, Travis? Can you overpower the lockup clutch in the converter? How much power can a stock 4L80 take? I don't know about the stock one. There are guys running those at fairly high power levels by tuning them, but I don't think that they're going to take what a 800 or 900 horsepower turbo thing has to offer, or at least not for very long. And then the lockup converter, most people do not engage the lockup converter at wide open throttle. Richard, hope you're doing great today. Yes, it is a good day. Up in the LQ4 with the 4L80 for my Monte Carlo build, how much power can I make with the low buck truck camshaft? Well, the low buck truck camshaft is about 60 horsepower more than a stock cam. So that gives you an idea. I don't know what the rest of your LQ4 is. I don't know what else you've done to it. Stall definitely creates more heat. Need a good aftermarket cooler. For my 6 that I'm building, I want to eventually make 700 to 800 horsepower with pump gas. Is that possible with 91? It's around 9.5 to 1 to compression. Yeah, I think probably. Well, I don't. Yeah, I think you can with tuning. Oh, Travis, you're in Thousand Oaks. You're close then. So do you have a running 4.8? Because we would definitely buy it from you. I have a regular cab with a 4.8. What are the best heads and cam setup? I'd like to get 450 horsepower. Would need a fast intake, or can I use a Porter Trailblazer SS with a 3200 stall converter? Yeah, 3200 stall converter would be good for that. A fast makes the most power, even on a 4.8. If you want to do that, they're expensive. 450 horsepower, I think you can get from a cam, and then you'll have to have headers on it. A big enough cam is going to get you close, but and a Trailblazer SS would, might get you close. Should I change my cam when I supercharge my 7-liter or run a 248, 260, 111? What supercharger are you running on it? Personal opinion, what's the best power router for a 408 to go in a straight line with a moderate slidey slides? There's no best. You just have to decide. If you're doing drifting, I don't know what the answer to that is, because I'm not sure I understand what the needs are for drift cars. But then I would ask you, what is your desired power output? And then, is the tune going to be right on it? And then if we showed you, like I have up on my channel, if I showed you the different power curves, you just have to pick which one of those. Okay, if they both make 1,000 horsepower, do you like one that has a rising boost curve like a centrifugal? Do you like a twin screw? Do you like a roots blower? Do you like turbos? Do you like the engine bay of some of those more than others? Run all my engines on run stand. I cover running 4.8 in a day. I have every other one. So do you just go get them from the wrecking yard and then? Because we should at least do a trade, right? We got cams and stuff we could trade for that. Does the Lowbuck truck cam chop more than the Truck Plus because that is 4 degrees less of LSA? Well, that's not what determines chop. The Lowbuck truck has more duration, so duration has a lot to do with that. Motors in stock currently. I just had an Elma 7 built, 20 over, BTR stage 2 for my truck. Okay, that's good. I haven't done anything on the LQ4 yet. I just purchased both. Finally caught a live. CJ, what's going on? Truck Plus will chop harder. Drag stripping some playing around town. I want to make 800. Yeah, there's no best one. There's all of them will do 800. So what do you like the look of? What do you like the feel of? All of that stuff. Do you want immediate boost? All of those questions are going to be more important than some proverbial thing. 7-liter supercharger here, TBS 2650, or possibly a ProCharger. So the difference between those two, like with a ProCharger, I probably would leave the big cam in it. With a TBS, I probably would put a smaller cam in it. I know Travis hitting home runs out there with a 4.8 LC953 or stroke 6-liter iron, going in a heavy regular cab Silverado. For Carson, what are you trying to get? What are you trying to achieve here? Like, the vehicle that you're putting in is one thing, but like, what are you trying to do with it? Are you towing? Are you drag racing it? What are you doing? Follow you on YouTube, but I haven't seen you here for a while. Yeah, Travis is. I don't pull from yards as much as I used to. Mostly just buy and sell from dismantlers or randos. There's people actually selling that stuff. Is it cheap? Is it junkyard cheap? Richard, doing cam swaps soon on a stock LS6. Well, I don't see very many of those around anymore. CSB BFD 233, 240, 108. That's a choppy cam. What's a good budget lifter? Thinking of Morel, link bars. Yeah, I don't know that link bars are necessary. NA Street 500 to 600 wheel horsepower. Well, the difference between 500 and 600 wheel horsepower is a lot, and you won't get either one of those with an LS6. With a 5.7, that's going to be really hard to do, because one of those is 600 flywheel horsepower and the other one's 700 flywheel horsepower, and you're just not going to get there with a 5.7, I don't think. But what was your question? Oh, we have LS7 lifters that will work. I don't know that I've tried Morel link bars. They're probably good. I don't know how high you're revving it, or like how much camshaft you have. I mean, how much cylinder head you have. I'm thinking that if you're talking about those kind of power levels, that you have really heavily ported 243 heads or some kind of aftermarket head on it, and some sort of aftermarket intake manifold on it. Just had an LM7 built. Okay, we did that. BTR Stage 2 truck, 03 Sierra, 342, currently getting 11 miles per gallon, mostly highway. How would the BTR truck can be better for fuel mileage? I don't think so. I don't think either one of those are going to be good for fuel mileage. I don't know why you're getting such low fuel mileage under cruise. You should be getting better than that. I would think that that's a tune issue. And mine has 4 series gears in it, and mine gets better mileage than that. Mine gets 19. But it's good to salvage in an L83. What do you mean? Are you wanting what salvage yard to get them from, or what did you do to the motor that you would want to take pieces out of it? Buy a lot of motors from crash vehicles or just abandoned projects. Wow. Just ordered my keychains. Nice. King coming in. Were you the first one? Picked up an 07 Escalade daily with about 5,000 miles on a rebuilt L92. Do you have any recommendations to keep it reliable? I have L92 videos up with some different cams that we've tried on them. An L92 is going to be essentially an LS3. So I have lots of LS3 stuff on there, up there with different kinds of cams that we run on them. You won't get 600 from it. That's harder to do with just a cam. You can get there with more work, but to get those kinds of power numbers, the kind of cam that you're going to be running is a big cam. It's going to be, 230, 235 to get those kind of numbers out of it. And so it should be reliable, but I don't know that you're going to be happy with it in an Escalade necessarily. I heard from another short from someone. It's based on LSA, but good to know. I'm happy to get the Truck Plus. Well, the LSA is one of the things. Like a tighter LSA tends to have more chop, but if you have a 190 at 50 cam with a tight LSA, it's not going to chop as much as a 230 or 240 at 50 camshaft with the wider LSA, because the duration also plays a part in that. It's all the stuff. It's not lift so much. I have a 5.3 with Truck Norris, long tube headers, 410s, 28-inch tall tire, 3000 circle D converter, truck running 923 on the draggy, so it runs okay, but hard to do a burnout. So tight or loose converter. 3000, that 28-inch tall tire on 3000 installed with 410s. Does it have a what intake manifold does it have? Does it have some kind of long run or intake manifold? And is a 923 is that an what? That's not a quarter mile, right? That's an eighth mile or something. I'm building a 4.3 Ranger, single turbo. I've never had a turbo vehicle. I've had ProCharge and I've had Whipple cars. It's possible to have that instant hit with a turbo 4.8. Yeah, you could put small enough turbos on there where it will do that, but a turbo car will probably be more responsive than a ProCharge car will be, because a ProCharge is going to have, even if you nail the throttle at 3,000 RPM, the ProCharger is going to have like 3 pounds of boost there, whereas a turbo might have all the boost there. Richard, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Fast, what's going on? Saw you on Street Alpha podcast. Yeah, that was very, very cool. That was fun. We flew to Florida and went on there. I just met him. As you saw from, if you watched the whole video, Jimmy kind of set that up and put him in contact. And that was a lot of fun. We got to talk about a lot of cool stuff, and he got to be, he hadn't done a lot of LS stuff, so it was cool for him. And I like RV stuff, and I like import stuff. So there's there's lots of Supras around, and a cool an early, like a little Nissan truck, and an NSX, and all kinds of all of that cool stuff though. But it's good to see you guys again. David Vizard had a video about rounding the bottom edge of the cylinder to reduce turbulence under the piston at high RPM. I think he says good for 10 horsepower. Will it work on a 4.8? I don't know. I love David, and I'd like to try some of that stuff to see. I don't know. I'd like to see what angle he puts on there and stuff. Maybe I should give him a call and ask him about it. 1100 to 1200 horsepower drag build. Carson, what is your thing here? Scrolling. Oh, okay. So you're doing either one of them. I wouldn't stroke the 4.8 if you're, I wouldn't stroke the 6 liter if you're doing a turbo thing. The turbo will make the power that you need, and it will also do it on a 5.3. The nice thing about the 6.0, if you do that, it will have better boost response. But on drag stuff, you guys are going to take care of the boost response thing. In most cases, you're able to make more power than you have traction. So if you have a quick spool or two-step or converter or all of that, then you can make usually more power, and you have to dial the power in for whatever the available traction is. But any of those motors would make that. I'll find a dismantler and buy every single LS they own, like 3 or 4 at a time. It gets cheap that way. Oh, nice. Yeah, so send me an email and let me know what we can buy them for. Transmission tune on the conservative side. Yeah, that combination should be able to spin the tires. Spend the money on the Johnson slow leak lifters. Okay, the short travel ones with link bars, absolutely worth it. The quality of mini replacement lifters is suspect these days. The dismantlers don't know what they have, and they don't care. Yeah, they're not LS people. They're just engine people. We'll be turboing the J-Swap NSX this year. You guys have one of those? We have the turbo on Jimmy's J-Swap NSX. 480 can handle 750 wheel horsepower with stock hard parts. It won't last long at horsepower without upgraded clutches. 900 wheels, a billet input shaft. So do you have to go to a 300M input shaft on the 480s at that upper power levels? Got a 480 in it. Okay. 03 Avalanche, stock 5.3, Truck Norris, Ring Gap, GTX 35, 84, 300 stall. 300, that's 3,000 stall. That's a lot of stall for a Truck Norris. 513 gears, 37-inch tires. How much power do you think it makes? Well, that turbo will make 700 at the tire. It's probably not going to do it with that gear and that tire size. It would do it with a smaller one, but that turbo is about an 800 horsepower turbo in a 5.3 or thereabouts. We've run them a bunch. You ever seen any data comparing the horsepower difference between a stock LS or standard volume oil pump versus a high volume pump like a Millings? No, I wanted to do that test for a long time. We've had a few different pumps, and I've had motors on the dyno where we'd like to try that and just demonstrate what the change in oil pressure is. We just would have to make sure that obviously we use the same oil, which that's not hard to do. We would just keep the oil in the pan, or when we drained it to drop the pan to do the pump change. But we want to make sure that the oil is at the same temperature too when we did that. It'd be interesting to see. I would imagine it'd be worth some, because the guys at West Tech, probably with Hot Rod or one of the Motor Trend guys for a magazine story, did pump tests where they did high volume pumps, but they did it either with a small block Chevy or maybe a Dodge where it was external so that it was easier to do. I remember seeing a bunch of small block or big block Chevy pumps there. So they did that on those. How much horsepower the oil pump uses is what I mean. I don't know that we could tell how much it uses because there would be no way to do that. We could only see a difference between the two. We could build maybe a pump dyno, and I'm surprised that somebody doesn't have that. Of an LQ4, 862s, Trailblazer SS, headers, Chupacabra, 456s, 30-inch tall tires, 4L80, 3800 stall, part throttle rolling in second gear. It will spin and wag the tail. See, that's awesome stuff. You have all the right stuff to make low-speed power. So you have a 6-liter, you have 862s, you have a long runner Trailblazer SS, you have headers, you have a cam that's going to make power in that range. 456s, you have big tires, but you have 456s and you have a converter in it. So all of that's tire spinning kind of stuff. I stopped going to yards because I wanted motors that weren't just LM7s or LQ4s. Started buying Gen 4 and aluminum fancy motors. Do you have some of those? Do you have LC9s or L86s or those kinds of things? L33s. I've had lots of changes to my burnout car. I have no mechanical sympathy, but I want a stabilish BTR cam to stay constant 8,000 RPM. On my LQ9 821 rec parts LSA supercharger, currently BTR 660 springs. So you want a stable 8,000 RPM cam on a LSA supercharger? Why are you revving it that high with that supercharger? You should run out of that supercharger way before you run that kind of RPM. But the BTR guys can help you out with a stable 8,000 RPM cam if that's what you want. Consider Johnson's, but they're pricey. It's way out of my budget. Maybe if I centrifugal, I'd definitely go there. Found an L83, broken, I guess. Are there any good parts to focus on? Well, the first thing I would want to do is I'd want to find out what's broke. Is the crank broke? Is the rod broke? Is a lifter broke? I mean, what's broke on it? And then are you wanting to put together another one? If you can find them in wrecking yards, that you should be able to find L83s in wrecking yards. I mean, I can't in any of the ones we have here, but I'm sure they made a lot of them. Are there any parts you'd like tested? I'm in Central PA, putting a 5.3 LH6 in Mustang right now. I have no parts for it. Oh, you want to know if we want to send you parts? I don't think there's anything that all of our cams have been thoroughly tested and stuff. 500, 1500, tire size, lift kit, cap, headers, fuel trims. Sean wants to know. Sean has questions. 223, 231 with a 120, well, with 112 LSA. So what was your question with that, Rick? I get going with so many questions and then I forget. That kind of sounds like a comp cam. Not asking for parts, looking to purchase and support. I don't know what we would have that we would need to, like I said, all of the lifters and springs and all of that stuff's been pretty thoroughly tested. Problem is even GM OEM lifters are having high failure rates. The Johnson drop-in replacements are good quality. Just make sure they are legit USA made Johnsons. Michigan Motorsports. Good friend of mine has an L7, 706s milled, headers, 20-inch tires, 410s, Truck Norris, 60E. Just living on borrowed time. 3,000 stall, has been 1318 in good air. 11.6s on 150 shot. Nice. What is that? Stall has been what blue collar? What vehicle is that? $231, $223, $231 cam with headers and a 2800, 3200 stall converter. What head setup do you recommend? For what are you trying to do? I can't remember if you've asked me before. I forgot already. Street Alpha podcast was fun, and that was a cool thing. I wouldn't mind doing more of those. Not just Street Alpha again, but other ones. What about the German lifters? They have good pricing and are made in Daytona Beach, Florida. Ring profile and tension can change drag and move horsepower. Best thing to do is the thin, low tension rings with good cylinder wall finish and excellent skirt designs. Yeah, there is power to be had from finagling with that stuff. I mean, it's out of the realm of junkyard stuff pretty much, but for things like Engine Masters, when I did that, all of that stuff is important. What's your knowledge on max safe boost level on a centrifugal supercharged big block Chevy with a blow-through carb, no intercooler on pump 93, forged internals, all good parts? I don't know. However high you can go without getting detonation is the thing. Pump gas and no intercooler, I don't think is a good combination, even on a blow-through. I know the blow-through guys will tell you that that's the way to go, but an intercooler is always better, especially on pump gas. Heard a lot of Delphi failures. Was considering Johnson tray style lifter, Caddy, or Morel link bars, leaning towards Morel. Blue collar, never heard of that brand of lifter, but I'm going to do some research. That was a comment. Stock intake 923 in the 8th. My low end power is not good. I guess my truck hooks pretty well. Yeah, and that's more of a problem if the thing hooks up and you don't have enough converter in it. I mean, that will that will make it less likely to hook up if you get the converter in the launch right. But a lot of problems with Morels. Somebody had, from what I'm seeing, Gatorman and Morel build most of the lifters out there. Getaway, what's going on? Might do an LSA on the 408. Would it be limiting myself? Yeah, an LSA is a fairly small blower, so I don't know how much power you want. You can make them better by doing porting and stuff, but it's still a small blower. Oh, 223, 231 on a 4.8 headers stall, going to run Trailblazer SS. What headset do you recommend for the most power with the setup? Well, the most power you could get would probably be, well, you're not going to take advantage of any of the ported heads that you put on there. Like a 4.8 should get, the best head that I know of is a 205 trick flow head, or a TEA ported, or there are other porting people, but a TEA ported or other kind of ported 706 or 862 head. Those would probably be the best small bore heads that you could put on there. The new BTR Canada valve head, I think, is going to work on a small bore application. Those would probably make the most, but you don't have enough camshaft in a 4.8, nor do you have enough intake in a 4.8 to take advantage of what heads that flow 300 plus CFM have to offer anyways. Those are 600 horsepower heads, and you're not going to be making 500 horsepower with that combination. So you don't have to worry as much about what the best heads are. You just should put some stock heads or ported heads on there. Are you at high elevation? Boost district kit. Richard, will you run the mirror image turbos on the 4.3? We won't need to run twins on the 4.3. We'll just run a single on the 4.3. Pretty sure Engine Masters, Freiberger did an oil pump shootout with an LS. He may have. I haven't seen all of the episodes. Working the AM. All right, blue collar. With 8-inch left and 37-inch tires, it feels like 800. Has no problem spinning tires. I should get paid for all the donuts. My dad worked at a junkyard when I was a kid. I remember walking through cars stacked 4 high and just dreaming, or sitting there shifting through the gears. It does. It changes your life, right? That's good stuff. Will you eventually offer a G42 1200 with ball bearing like you do for the 1050s? The 1050s are the only ones that have a ball bearing. We can get you ball bearing versions of a 1200 or a 1450. It's a 1400 or a 1450. We just don't, because most people don't buy those because they're more expensive. So the vast majority of people buy the lesser expensive turbos, so which is why we're offering what the customers want. Everything else in stock: iron, aluminum, Gen 3, Gen 4, 5.3, iron, aluminum, Gen 3, Gen 4, 6-liter, also a 6.2. I just don't buy the 4H usually. If you need one, I can get it and test run it. Yeah, and then said Travis, send me an email and let me know. I might be interested in buying some other ones. 1,000-foot elevation. Truck runs great. Tune is on. Tune is on point. Maybe it's my stock intake. I was thinking torque was tight. I can't really tell. It's a stall. I can stall it to 2,600 to 2,800. Well, that has a something. If it's that high, that's something other than a stock converter in it, obviously. Are LS lifters interchangeable with small what Chevy hydraulic rollers? I think that they are with a stock one. I have a 5.3 Chupacabra, nice. 706 heads, multi-ankle valve job. Would you go with a GTX 35 or a G42 going in a Pro Street Nova, Weekend Warrior? Well, we're going to ask the same question we always ask. How much power do you want to make? That's going to dictate what turbo you want. If you want a 5.3 that makes 600 at the tire, then the GTX. If you want something that makes 7 or 8 or 900 at the tire, then a G42. 8,000 RPM LSA LQ9 because the fans love it. That's true. They do like RPM. There's nothing wrong with that. Very unique sound compared to most cars that currently leave witness marks on the pistons from the valves above 7,500. So you have that much piston to valve clearance. And just a whisker. Street truck, but want as much NA power as possible. Rick. Okay, yeah, as much power as possible though, but you're actually a 223 cam and a 4.8 is going to do fairly well. But bigger cams will make more power, but that will work. I mean, we did 475 with the 224 cam and a good ported 706 heads, the total engine airflow stuff that Brian had, and then a fast manifold. And so it's possible to make good power with that. You'll make less than that with a Trailblazer SS. Does the Lowbuck truck or Truck Plus have better chop at idle? The Truck Plus chops more than the Lowbuck truck does, but not by a lot. What do you think of porting a Performer RPM for 408? We did that on my Engine Masters. It was 410 inches, but we did that. We extrude hone ported it. In fact, we did it twice, and it definitely picked up power by porting. Flow match and gasket match, what do you think it'll be worth? Ours is worth a lot. We had a fairly good one, but I think that between the two portings, I think it was 25 or more. We were not interested in what the peak number was. We were interested in average numbers. But if you're doing if you're turboing it, I wouldn't worry about it. And if you're not, on a 408, I might pick a single plane anyways. L92 or LQ9 for 800 plus street build. Either one of those will easily do that. That's a add ring gap, mild cam, since you're going to put ring gap in it, I'd put ARP head studs in it and new head gaskets, and then put a mild cam, put our Truck Plus camshaft in either one of those, or a Lowbuck truck camshaft, injectors and a turbo, put our G42 turbo in there, and then it will easily do that. Eric, when you do razor blade rebuilds on an LS, do you replace the head bolts or use head studs, or just reuse the old head bolts? I see they're torque 2-year-old, so I was wondering if we're just putting the motor back together and running it NA, I just reuse the stock head bolts, and I normally just torque them to like 60 or 65 foot-pounds if we're running them on the engine dyno. If we're doing ring gap in there and a razor blade rebuild, then I put ARP head studs on it and new head gaskets. Richard, you may remember I used to have the Magnuson 112 on the LQ9. I swapped to the LSA 821's LQ9 last fall and went from 6 PSI to 13 PSI. Made 535 wheel horsepower at 17 degrees, E85, through a 480E with the LSA at 13 pounds. Okay. Do you think that the LSA has more potential than a 112 Magnuson? I mean, the LSA, I think, is a 1.9, I can't afford a bottom end that holds 8,000 on my 8100. The fans do love it. Yeah, that'd be expensive. Maybe just have a loudspeaker that plays an 8,000 RPM motor, like just have it play like a 15,000 RPM, like V10 Formula One motor. If you're building on a budget, RHP has most of it in one spot. Picked up my fuel injectors, fuel pump, turbo, vacuum log, and more. But wait, there's more. And don't forget your Fund the 4.8 keychain. Also for 8,000 RPM, I'm not worried about max power, just worried about the lifters. We ran short travel. I think that they were fast lifters on the motor that we did. We didn't run a bunch of runs at 8,000. We ran a bunch of runs. I've run a bunch of runs, 100 runs to 77 or 7,800 with this Junkyard 5.3, and those are the original lifters that it came with. I have a 72 Chevelle, very nice. I like those. 70 to 72 are my favorites. With a big block and a turbo 400, 389 gears, made 650 and only ran 1170. Does that seem normal? Not if it's 1170 at, like, what's the mile an hour? The mile an hour is going to kind of tell you what's going on. The 1178 might just say that you're not running. And it did make 650 flywheel horsepower. If it runs 1170 at 135 miles an hour, you're making a lot of power. If it runs 1170 at 107 miles an hour, you're not making very much power. Wilson manifold does porting for $900 on intake, and they say it gives you 25 horsepower across the whole curve. That wouldn't surprise me on a stroked Windsor with that RPM air gap intake manifold on that, because that manifold was not designed for a 600 horsepower 408 stroker. It was designed for a 351. So there's a lot there waiting to be unleashed. No turbo at the time, but more anti power, faster spool, all that. Yep. Which difference if you put an intercooler before or after the turbo? Well, you're not going to put an intercooler before the turbo. You're only going to put it after the turbo. It's going to be between the turbo and the carburetor or the throttle body. I'm new here. Saw you said OEM cam with single turbo makes as much as the turbo can. Maybe. Would you still apply with twin turbos, or does stock cam become the restriction? I think you're thinking about it wrong, but that's okay. That's why you're here, to ask questions. If you have a 1,000 horsepower turbo, it's going to be really hard for you to get to 1,000 horsepower with a stock cam on a 4.8 or a 5.3. The problem is because you're only going to make like if it's a 4.8 and you have a stock cam, and it's going to make about 330 horsepower. So if you want to max out a 1,000 horsepower turbo, it's going to take you like 29 pounds or something to get there, or more. And so it's not going to work very well. You put a camshaft in there, then now you might get there at 5 or 10 less pounds of boost. It'd be a lot easier for you to get there. So a cam goes a long way. You shouldn't be thinking maxing out a 1,000 horsepower turbo with a stock cam. You should be thinking about running a stock cam if you only want to add like 100 or 200 horsepower with the turbo. Then you could do that. Plus you get a good idle and all that, but not maxing it out. You don't want to do that. You don't want to think about doing that. That's the wrong way to go. Blew an MLS gasket on a big block Chevy. Stay LMS or go copper, makes 1,400 horsepower. If you blew the head gasket, it wasn't because of the strength of the head gasket. We make 1,500 horsepower or more than 1,500 horsepower with an MLS head gasket. So I would look at why you blew the head gasket. Is it the surface finish of the deck? Is it detonation? Is it insufficient clamping? Are there irregularities there? If you made 1,400 horsepower, how much torque did you make? Because that might be the thing. Was there too much timing? I would look at that stuff. And if you are going to go copper and you think you have a sealing problem, then you're going to go copper with O-rings on it. Dang it, that messed up my plans for piping. The heat exchanger setup is superior on the LSA versus the Magnuson. The 112 had a jack shaft and auxiliary belt. Did not approve of constant 6,000 RPM shifts. Yeah, I've heard that jack shaft setup is problematic with the belt. Nor belt issues with the LSA. Okay, that makes it, yeah. So there's more than one reason to pick a combination, and then all the power is not the thing. It was 11.7 to 115, 650 at the crank with 31 degrees of total timing. Foot braked it, had a 2800 stall, kind of left slow, and a 3800 stall. So 115. So what was a 60-foot time? Like 1.8 or 1.9 or something? Does copper with lock wire have a coolant problem? Yeah, it's not something that I would recommend for like daily driving. Steve Morris does that stuff a lot, but I have never tried it on a on any of these motors that we've done on the dyno. I see some that come that are like that, but I would be worried about water. So what? Oh, here we go. Here's the. In case anybody's interested, there's the converter that's for sale. Manifold temperature is still get a bit spicy during burnouts with an LSA. Can I do water meth before the supercharger? Yeah, you can. The thing that happens though when you do it beforehand is you can displace some of the airflow through it. So if for guys that are trying to max out whatever that blower will do, if it's not all ported and fancy, and you blow water or methanol or a combination of the two through there, you're going to displace some of the airflow potential. It's going to help with detonation and because it's going to help with charge temperature, but it will limit some of the airflow. Thanks for all the knowledge, Richard. I have a choice of a 351 Windsor to a 408 and putting in a 5.3 into my 92 Mustang. This car would not be a daily. Yeah, there's no bad choice there. If you're Ford guys will want you to do the 351 or whatever, and it depends on what you're trying to do. Like an aluminum 5.3, which is what I'm doing in mine. I like that idea. I would do that before I would do a heavy 351 stroke deal, but that's because of the things that I want with my car. Steve does that stuff. It's usually dry deck. He has done that stuff. Yeah. Have you ever done a test with before and after water injection on the supercharger? Yes, many times. I've done supercharging with an ERL on a, I think it was on a Jackson Racing. It was an Eaton M45, I think. And we did the ERL water before the blower and we did it after the blower. It didn't seem to make a big difference in charge temperature. And then we also did a snow boost deal before the on the M90, also on the 3800. Don't know, my 60-foot sadly didn't bring my draggy and didn't give slips, unfortunately. Okay. Just the process of compressing air makes heat. Why the intercooler after the turbo and not before? Yeah, you want to cool the air, but you can't cool, like if you have ambient air that's 80 degrees, you're not going to be able to cool that. But once you compress it in the blower or the turbo, now it's 200 or 250. Now you have some room to cool it, especially if you're using an air-to-air intercooler that only uses ambient air, like let's say 80-degree air, to cool it. So you can't use 80-degree ambient air to cool 80-degree ambient air. You can use 80-degree ambient air in the intercooler to cool 250-degree air. And so you get better changes that way. You showed up late. Might have been asked before, is an LC9 stroke to 427 worth it, or is there just more cost-effective effort? To do what? What is it? You got to tell me what you're trying to achieve. We've done stroked aluminum motors to 468 inches. So if you're building an NA motor and you want to make lots of power, a bigger motor is an easy way to do it. I wouldn't do that if I'm running boost, because the boost just takes care of the problem already. What are your thoughts on taking an 8.1 head and milling it? I think it's a good idea. I think you can help make power that way. I don't know where that limit is, though. Normally 30 thousandths is about where heads are safe at. And then you don't have intake manifold problems with the bolt holes lining up anymore. But I don't know on an 8.1. I don't know how much you can take off. I think porting the head's a really good idea. There's definitely power to be had from porting that head. Or going to the 8.8 head is also a good idea. Slocum, I think, has 8.8. Hank Slocum from Grom Racing, I hope that I'm getting that right, has 8.8 stuff that are ported, I think. And then the 8.8 manifold is also better if you're wanting to do that. We got 1 more minute. I'm excited to see a BTR Eaton patent on the LSA rotors. I know that'll be cool stuff. Brian's been really happy about that stuff. So if you're interested in the converter, send me an email. I put my email address on here. I'll put it down again. If you're interested in that Circle D converter, send me a thing. And then if you want to help out with the 4.8 stuff, go get these. We got these RSP keychains, so you can be part of the 4.8 team and go, look, I was responsible for helping make that happen. Is RHP 1200 enough to feed a 406 small block for 1,000 horsepower? Yeah, the blower's rated, or the turbo's rated to 1200, so it's more than enough for a 406. If I want more power from an LSA, I'll just add a turbo off of one header. There you go. You got enough. You'll definitely have enough response for that. Thanks for the response. Blew both head gaskets on my stock 302. Just looking at all the options. If you blew both the head gaskets, that's probably a tune thing, I'm thinking. But, you know, that stuff always happens. Running the same converter you spoke of. I had my OBS truck with your Truck Plus Cam 5.3. It's a blast when you're into it, but tame when you want to cruise. Very happy with it. See, Reeve Skinner talking good stuff about the converter. So let me know. Send me an email, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.